Perhaps you feel like you're doing everything right for your health. You're eating your vegetables, staying active, maybe even taking a few supplements. But what if I told you that one specific leafy green, something many of us consider a health food powerhouse, could actually be quietly working against your bone strength? It sounds counterintuitive. I know. For years, we've heard about eating greens for health, and they are incredibly good for us in so many ways. But when it comes to keeping our bones strong and resilient as we get older, a crucial job for preventing falls and fractures, there's a little detail about certain greens we need to understand. Imagine the fear of a simple stumble turning into something much more serious, leading to a fracture that takes months to heal, impacting your independence and quality of life. That painful reality is something we all want to avoid. Our bones naturally lose density as we age, making this concern even more pressing. We focus on calcium and vitamin D, which is absolutely right. But sometimes it's not just about getting enough of the good stuff, but also avoiding things that interfere with it. There's a secret, or perhaps more accurately, an often overlooked piece of the puzzle related to a compound found in certain plants, especially one very popular green. In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain on this particular leafy green and understand why it might be a concern for your bones. But importantly, we're not just going to talk about a problem, we're going to focus on the delicious, practical solutions. We'll explore several wonderful foods you should be eating regularly that are fantastic allies in building and maintaining strong bones. These aren't obscure ingredients, but everyday foods you can easily find and enjoy. We'll look at simple ways to add them into your meals, making bone health a tasty part of your routine. Watch to the end for something that will surprise you about how easy this can be. Let's start with this particular leafy green that might be causing a bit of a headache for your bones. And that, dear friends, is spinach. Now, before you gasp and think I'm telling you to banish spinach forever, please don't. Spinach is packed with nutrients, vitamins A, CK folate, iron, and antioxidants. It's truly a nutritional superstar in many regards. The issue isn't the spinach itself or its wonderful nutrients. The concern lies with a natural compound it contains in high amounts called oxalate, or oxalic acid. Think of oxalates like tiny little clingy hands inside your digestive system. When you eat foods containing oxalates, these compounds can bind to calcium. Calcium is, of course, the primary mineral your bones need to stay strong. When oxalates bind to calcium in your gut, they form calcium oxalate crystals. These crystals are not absorbed by your body. Instead, they are simply passed out as waste. What this means is that the calcium that is bound up with the oxalate isn't available for your body to absorb and use, including sending it to your bones where it's needed. So, even though spinach contains a decent amount of calcium, your body can't easily access much of it because the oxalates are holding on to it. The amount of oxalates in spinach is quite high compared to many other vegetables. Other greens like rhubarb, beet greens, and Swiss chard also contain significant amounts, though spinach is often the one most frequently consumed in larger quantities, especially raw in salads or smoothies. Eating a little bit of spinach now and then isn't going to cause a collapse of your skeleton overnight. The concern is more for people who consume large quantities of high oxalate foods regularly, especially if their overall calcium intake from other sources is borderline low. In that scenario, the oxalates from the greens could potentially reduce the total amount of absorbed calcium available for bone maintenance over time. Now, there are ways to mitigate the oxalate issue with spinach. Cooking can help reduce the oxalate content, particularly boiling, as some of the oxalates leach into the cooking water. So, enjoying cooked spinach, perhaps steamed or sautéed, might be slightly better from an oxalate perspective than consuming large amounts of raw spinach in a giant salad or smoothie. Also, pairing high oxalate foods like spinach with foods rich in calcium at the same meal can help. The oxalate will bind to the calcium from the food in the gut, making it less likely to bind to calcium that might otherwise be absorbed. For example, having a spinach salad with cheese or a creamy dressing, or adding spinach to a dish with milk or yogurt might help. However, it's important to understand that even with these strategies, the bioavailability of calcium from the spinach itself remains low due to the inherent oxalate content. So, the key takeaway here isn't to fear spinach, but to be mindful of it as your primary source of calcium, or to rely heavily on it for your daily green intake if you have concerns about bone density. It's fantastic for its other nutrients, and moderation is key. Think of spinach as a wonderful part of a varied diet, but not the backbone pun intended of your bone-building efforts. Now that we've understood why we need to be mindful of relying too heavily on spinach for calcium, let's pivot to the stars of the show, the foods that are truly excellent for your bones. These are foods that provide readily available calcium, or other vital nutrients like vitamin K and vitamin D, which work together to keep your skeletal system strong. Let's talk about some leafy greens that are bone champions without the high oxalate issue. Kale, for example, is absolutely packed with nutrients, including a significant amount of calcium that is much more bioavailable than the calcium in spinach because it has a much lower oxalate content. Kale is also an outstanding source of vitamin K. Now, vitamin K might not be as famous as calcium or vitamin D for bones, but it plays a crucial role. It helps the body make proteins that are essential for bone formation and strength, like osteocalcin. Without enough vitamin K, these proteins don't function properly, and bone mineralization can be impaired. So, kale gives you both calcium and vitamin K, a powerful combination for bone health. How can you get more kale into your diet? It's more versatile than you might think. You can massage raw kale with a little olive oil and lemon juice for a tender salad base. You can sauté it with garlic and a pinch of salt as a delicious side dish. Add it to soups, stews, or pasta sauces during the last few minutes of cooking. Blend a handful into a smoothie, though the texture is heartier than spinach. You can even make crispy kale chips in the oven. It wilts down like spinach when cooked, so a large bunch can be easily incorporated into a meal for two. Unlike spinach, which loses a lot of calcium usability due to oxalates, the calcium in kale is much easier for your body to absorb and put to work in your bones. So, if you're looking for a bone-friendly leafy green alternative to spinach, kale is a top contender. Another excellent green in this category is collard greens, like kale. They are part of the cruciferous family and are rich in calcium and vitamin K, with a lower oxalate content than spinach. Collard greens have a slightly sturdier texture than kale and are traditionally slow-cooked, often with broth or a bit of ham hock for flavor, which makes them very tender and delicious. However, you can also chop them finely and sauté them or add them to soups. They are a staple in many cuisines for a reason. They are nutritious and hold up well in cooking. Broccoli is another cruciferous vegetable that deserves a mention. While not as high in calcium or vitamin K as kale or collards, it still contributes valuable amounts of both and is easy to incorporate into countless dishes. Steamed, roasted, in stir-fries, or even raw with dip. Varying your green vegetables ensures you get a wide range of nutrients, and focusing on those lower in oxalates like kale, collards, and broccoli, while still enjoying spinach in moderation, is a smart strategy for bone health as we get older. Now that we've explored some fantastic bone-friendly greens, let's broaden our scope beyond the leafy variety. There are other food groups that are absolute powerhouses for bone strength, providing that essential calcium in readily absorbable forms, plus other key nutrients. Dairy products are often the first foods people think of when they consider calcium, and for good reason. Milk, yogurt, and cheese are some of the richest and most bioavailable sources of calcium in the typical diet. A glass of milk or a serving of yogurt provides a substantial amount of your daily calcium needs. Yogurt also offers the benefit of probiotics, which are good for gut health, and a healthy gut is better able to absorb nutrients, including calcium. Hard cheeses like cheddar or Parmesan are also excellent calcium sources. Soft cheeses like ricotta or cottage cheese contain calcium too, though typically less per serving. Beyond calcium, many dairy products, particularly milk and some yogurts, are fortified with vitamin D. Vitamin D is absolutely critical for calcium absorption. Without enough vitamin D, your body can't efficiently pull the calcium from your digestive system into your bloodstream, no matter how much calcium you consume. Think of vitamin D as the key that unlocks the door for calcium to enter your body and get to where it needs to go, including your bones. Spending time in the sun helps your body produce vitamin D, but dietary sources, especially fortified foods, are also very important, particularly for older adults who may not spend as much time outdoors or whose skin may not synthesize vitamin D as efficiently. If you tolerate dairy well, including milk in your tea or coffee, using yogurt as a snack or in smoothies, or adding cheese to your meals are all simple ways to boost your calcium and vitamin D intake. For those who are lactose intolerant or choose not to consume dairy, there are excellent non-dairy alternatives available today, many of which are fortified with calcium and vitamin D to levels comparable to milk. Look for plant-based milks made from almond, soy, oat, or cashew that specifically state they are fortified with calcium and vitamin D on the label. Just give the carton a shake before pouring, as the added calcium can sometimes settle at the bottom. Fortified orange juice is another option, although it's higher in sugar and calories than milk or plant-based alternatives. Moving away from dairy and greens, let's talk about something perhaps a little less obvious but incredibly beneficial for bones: certain types of fish. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel are excellent sources of vitamin D. Remember how important vitamin D is for calcium absorption. Eating these fish regularly helps ensure you have enough of this vital nutrient. Salmon is a popular choice and can be baked, grilled, or pan-fried. A 3-ounce serving of cooked salmon provides a good portion of your daily vitamin D needs. Sardines, while perhaps not everyone's favorite, are an absolute powerhouse for bone health because you typically eat the tiny, soft bones along with the fish. These bones are packed with calcium. A small can of sardines can provide a significant amount of calcium, rivaling a glass of milk. Sardines are also rich in vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids, which have anti-inflammatory properties and may also play a role in bone health. You can eat sardines on crackers, add them to salads or pasta sauces, or mash them with a little mayonnaise for a quick sandwich filling. They are inexpensive and nutrient-dense. Don't dismiss them until you've tried them. Incorporating fatty fish into your diet a couple of times a week is a fantastic way to support your bone health, providing both vitamin D and, in the case of sardines, a direct source of easily absorbed calcium. Let's also consider nuts and seeds. While not as high in calcium as dairy or fortified foods, certain nuts and seeds contribute valuable minerals to our diet that support bone structure. Almonds, for instance, contain calcium and magnesium. Magnesium is another mineral that works alongside calcium and vitamin D in bone formation. Sesame seeds are surprisingly high in calcium, particularly tahini sesame paste. A couple of tablespoons of tahini can add a notable amount of calcium to dressings, dips like hummus, or sauces. Sprinkle sesame seeds on salads, stir-fries, or baked goods. Other seeds like chia seeds and flax seeds contain omega-3 fatty acids, similar to fatty fish, which can help reduce inflammation and potentially benefit bones. They can be added to yogurt, smoothies, or oatmeal, while you wouldn't rely solely on nuts and seeds for your calcium. Including a variety in your diet contributes important supporting nutrients that help keep your bones strong and healthy. A handful of almonds as a snack or adding tahini to a salad dressing are simple ways to benefit. Finally, let's not forget about prunes. Also known as dried plums, you might think of prunes primarily for digestive health. And they are indeed excellent for that due to their fiber content. However, research has shown that eating prunes regularly may have a positive effect on bone density, particularly in postmenopausal women, while the exact mechanisms are still being studied. It's believed that compounds in prunes help reduce bone turnover, the process where old bone is broken down, and may stimulate bone formation. They contain vitamin K and potassium, which also play roles in bone health. Eating just a few prunes a day could be a simple and tasty way to support your bones. You can eat them on their own. Add them to oatmeal or cereal, or chop them into baked goods. So, we've talked about being mindful of how high oxalate greens like spinach can impact calcium absorption. But more importantly, we've explored a whole host of delicious and practical foods that are genuine champions for your bone health. We looked at bone-friendly leafy greens like kale and collards, which offer highly available calcium and crucial vitamin K without the high oxalate load of spinach. We discussed the incredible benefits of dairy products or fortified plant-based alternatives, which are often the easiest way to get significant amounts of calcium and vitamin D. We also highlighted how including fatty fish like salmon and sardines provides vital vitamin D and, in the case of sardines, direct calcium from the edible bones. And we touched upon how nuts and seeds contribute supporting minerals like magnesium, and how humble prunes might play a surprising role in maintaining bone density. Remember, keeping your bones strong as you age isn't about drastic changes or eliminating entire food groups. It's about making informed choices and incorporating a variety of nutrient-rich foods into your regular diet. It's about enjoying delicious meals that also happen to be building blocks for a resilient skeleton. Being aware that large amounts of raw spinach might interfere with calcium absorption is simply about being smart with your food choices. Not about deprivation. It's about making sure you're getting enough calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K from sources your body can easily use. Small, consistent changes can make a world of difference over time. Adding a serving of yogurt to your breakfast, swapping spinach for kale in your salad a few times a week, enjoying salmon for dinner, snacking on a handful of almonds, or having a few prunes after a meal. These simple steps all contribute to the bigger picture of strong, healthy bones. You have the power to nourish your body and support your skeletal system through the food you eat every day. It's never too late to start focusing on bone health. And by making these delicious foods a regular part of your life, you're investing in your future mobility and independence. What are your favorite bone-healthy foods? Do you have any simple recipes or tips for incorporating them into your meals? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Sharing our experiences helps us all. If you found this information helpful and empowering, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to join our community and get more practical tips and information on living your best life at every age. Thank you for watching. And here's to your health and strong bones. Live your best life at every age.